Hi traders and welcome to Pepperstone's market analysis wrap on Friday the 3rd of July. So we saw some action last night on the major indices with the non-farm payrolls coming out a day earlier than normal because of the Independence Day holiday. The market consolidated a little bit after that, so the excitement didn't really continue, but we'll jump straight into the chart and see if we can identify some opportunities for today's trading and early next week. So I'll start out with the Aussie USD. You can see here for the last 3 weeks, or more really, we've been stuck in a range of about 100 to 130 pips. Hasn't really done anything, hasn't promised anything. All we know is that it's found support at the 20 here. It's done that several times, nearly on a daily basis. You can see that also this is a good roll reversal area, so we expected it to be support, so there's no surprises there. But our preferred move to this one is still on the downside, and that's mainly because there's a lot less, interference on the way down. You can get down to sort of that 66.50 to 60 area without any problem whatsoever if it breaks this 20 moving average. So it needs to close below this area here and below the 20 moving average for that to happen on a daily, but hasn't got a lot of real problems on the way down. It has to get past the 200, but other than that, it's pretty smooth sailing for about 400 or 500 pips. Whereas if you go to the weekly, if it breaks up, you can see here that basically all the way down it was providing a place of dynamic resistance, the 50 was, and every one of these is going to cause us issues. So for starters, it has to get above the 70, and we know the 70 is a very big stumbling block for it anyway, so it's got to get past the 70. But if it does that, it's going to have trouble basically at every level, every 50 to 100 pips, it's going to find some form of resistance. There's no question about that. You can see every level playing through here, whereas the downside is a lot less. It's a lot clearer. You can see that. We've got some issues here at sort of 66.50, but after that, 64 sort of 20 is probably the next zone. So there's just a lot more room to move. There's the moving averages in front of it, of course, but the historical support and resistance isn't really there for this one. So our preference is definitely to the downside, but yeah, we'll trade it up if we need to. There's no worries about that, but only scalping at the moment while it's in this range. You basically can scalp it up and down on stochastic crossovers, even a little bit of MACD divergence on the smaller time frames. There's plenty of opportunities there. It's been pretty good for scalping. There's no worries about that. It's just on a daily. It doesn't look like it's done a hell of a lot. So understand the ranges and understand the limits. You know that its range is around that sort of 100 to 130 pips, and that's been like that for about 3 weeks. So don't be over aggressive on where your expectations are. Keep them short and sharp, and you'll be fine with this one. So we'll move on to the US dollar CAD. The CAD's been an interesting one. It's threatening to break higher, but hasn't really been able to fulfill its destiny here. We've got a series of higher highs and higher lows. It's still definitely in a technical uptrend on the daily chart. There's no worries about that. It's had trouble getting past the 20, then it had trouble getting past the 50 in the Bollinger Band, as you can see there. So as long as it doesn't make a low below this 200, it's still going to be in an uptrend. Okay, so what we're looking for here, my preference is still to the upside on this one, because I think if it breaks past this 50, it could easily get up to that sort of 38.80 level here where we had that previous break several weeks ago now. So that's probably the ideal trade for this one. If it breaks shorter and closes below the 200 on a daily chart, down to the probably 33.20, 133.20 is probably the logical target, but I would prefer it to go up because I think it makes a little bit more sense for what's happening. The MACD on the daily is definitely rising, you can see that, so that's always a good sign for it. But it has struggled recently to get past this 50, and now it's going to have to get past the 20 again as well. So, it's resting right in the middle of the Bollinger Band, which is a 20 SMA, of course. So we'll see what happens with this one. I don't expect a hell of a lot of action on a public holiday on a Friday. So everybody knows we've got the US has got a public holiday, which is out tonight. So we're probably going to see pretty light movements. I can't imagine that we're going to get really big trends starting today or any big volatile movements unless something extreme happens that we can't foresee. So probably if you're going to scalp this one, this is definitely a scalping opportunity. You have to go down to the 15-minute and basically just take small pullbacks to the 20 on a downtrend. Obviously, if it breaks up above the 20, take the pullbacks and trade them up. So that's all you can really do on this one. Not expecting anything extreme. So probably this is not probably going to give us the moves that we need even for a scalping opportunity. So maybe just keep watch on this one. see next week what happens, but we do need to close above this 20 at the very least to consider taking it long again. But ideally, it needs to get up here, break the 50 and the top of the Bollinger Band, and close to a new high. If it does that, it should be smooth sailing to about 138.80. Okay, the US dollar Swissy paints a similar story in terms of what it's actually doing. You can see the MACD's similar sort of picture, that it is starting to rise, which is a good sign for it, I guess. It's found a little bit of support in this area here. We can see a pretty good rejection candle here on the this is a daily as well. So that's been a good rejection, but probably the most we can hope for with this one is probably to pull back to the 20. So it's sitting at about 94.50 at the moment. The 20 would find it probably at around that 95 level. So it's only 50 pips, but it could certainly do it. These are the sort of ranges that this one's working with. Like, you're not going to get big moves out of this one at the moment anyway without any significant news. So you want to be scalping on this one, taking it down to a 15-minute or a 1 hour chart. Trade higher highs and higher lows potentially to get it to that level here, which is around the 95. Okay, so that's what we're hoping for here. You can see here we've got a series of higher highs and higher lows, but it needs to basically close on at least on 15-minute above the 200 and close higher than these levels here before we take this trade long. So if we get a move up and it closes up above this level here, sort of around that 94 sort of 65 level, you can consider taking this long to the 95. Not a big move. It's not going to be a big trade, but we're not expecting that in the next few days anyway. So certainly just one to watch, but more a scalping opportunity than anything else. And if we get a daily close around the 20, if it closes above it, it might go longer. This is one of those ones again where if it does close, if we get a daily close above the sort of 95.40 area, and above this moving average, you could see that it could definitely get to that sort of 96.30, 40 area without much trouble. We know it's strong support. Well, it was support there. It's going to be resistance there now, so it's going to have trouble getting past there. But that would be the first initial move. Nothing exciting. Look, you're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of pips, but that's what the Swissy does most of the time. So we'll just keep an eye on it and probably just take the smaller opportunities on it. All right, we'll go to the pound, the euro pound actually. We'll look at that first. Still trending higher. It's not too bad. We haven't got any extreme moves on it. This is a daily chart, but it is tracking a little bit higher. It's had a couple of days sell-off now, but it's found itself on the 20. We know the 20's been good support for it. It's been good dynamic support all the way up. There's not a lot of traffic in front of it. Back up to that sort of 92.80 area. It's probably the first target. So, it's got a few hundred pips in it on the way up. I think this is probably still a longer term uptrend. I think it's not bad. It's found itself at the 20 again. MACD's still not bad. We haven't got any real divergence that's exciting. Stochastic is reloading, so that's not too bad. It's kind of even though it's trending, it looks a little bit sideways. So probably look for opportunities to maybe take a long again off here. We've got probably drop it back to a 15-minute chart, see a series of higher highs and higher lows, and trade that one probably long as a preference. The hour's got a little bit of work to do. It's got to get past these moving averages, but again, the indicators are agreeing with a potential move for that. The reason why this is probably looking longer than it is short is that the euro, we'll go to the euro first. You can still see that the euro's got a lot of indecision happening here, okay? It's had that big move up. It's come back down. It's found itself on the 20. Really, really strong support for it, the 20 moving average. It found the 38.2 fib of that move, which is great. So basically, it's been very, very spiky, which is telling us it's obviously indecisive. It's having a lot of trouble selling off. You can see that it's tried to break the 20 several times, on several occasions over the last week. Failed to do so every time. Ended up in the middle of nowhere. We've got basically 4 indecision candles over this. It's been a very indecision week. I'm not going to imagine that it's going to do anything different today, probably until early next week, until we start to get some trends happening again. But when we look at this one, it looks probably stronger than what the pound looks like. And that's why the euro pound is looking a little bit longer, because I think the euro looks stronger than the pound. When we go to the pound, we'll take it to a daily as well, so we'll have a fair comparison. Okay, you can see here that it's had the 3-wave pullback. It's come back up and tested this level again. Okay, so it's looking, let's get rid of that line there. You can see here that it's found itself at a pretty reasonable area of resistance again. Okay, you can see what looks like a pretty nasty shooting star on a daily this is a daily candle. So even though the ranges aren't huge, it's definitely there. So yeah, you'd have to say that the euro looks stronger than this one at the moment. So the euro looks stronger than the pound. This one looks, almost short to me. So if you take that into consideration, go back to the euro pound, euro strength would see this rising from here. So that's what we're looking for on using that as a basis really. So pound weaker than the euro. So we'll go long on the euro pound if we get that change of trend on the smaller time frame. All right, we'll go to the dollar index. The dollar index has been probably a little bit disappointing. It's had the same week as everything else, really. Very indecisive. You can see some 5 daily indecisive candles here, having a lot of difficulty breaking past this 20 moving average. It should have made a new higher high by now. Had it done this, the USDCAD and the US dollar Swissy would have hit their top targets. I still like this one. I still think that the MACD is still agreeing with a move up, so we're happy with that. It's got to break the 20 for mine. It needs to break up above this level. It needs a close above the sort of 97.80 now to really give us some positive movements. It's going to be, look, it's got resistance there. There's no question about that. It's got the 200 in its face. So it's got work to do. There's no worries about that. It's going to have some serious work. But if it does happen to close above this 200 in this whole area here and breaks above the 98 sort of 20 area, it should be pretty smooth sailing up to 99.20. So that's what we're looking for. That's my ideal preference for this one, because that would mean it agrees with a lot of what we're seeing. So the indecision here doesn't surprise us that the euro has also got that indecision. So we saw that earlier, but I still like this one, potentially long. So probably one to leave alone today. I can't imagine it's going to do a hell of a lot, like I said, because of the US being out of a trade day. So we'll just keep an eye on this one. But early next week, look for a break above this level here and try and take this one long. And that should see the US dollar CAD and the US dollar Swissy reach those targets that we talked about earlier. Okay, the preference is long on this one. But if it goes short, of course, we'll take that opportunity as well. But it's got pretty solid support here at 96. The last one we'll have a look at is the S&P 500. So yeah, this is a daily chart. We've had a pretty strong week. Basically we've gone up from the 3,000, where we started, all the way up to at its high 31 sort of 60. Look, it's come back down a little bit now. We'll take it to a smaller time frame and have a look. You can see that we've had a little bit of weakness on the 4 hour. It's a very, very strong resistance zone, that sort of 31.50 area. So no real surprise to see it pull off there. The news wasn't that fantastic. And I think people are probably consolidating their positions before the long weekend. So just one to watch. I don't think I wouldn't be trading this one at all until it opens again next week. I think it's going to be probably very flat movements. So it's probably one that you probably wouldn't even scalp. It's just a bit of a watch and see on this one. And yeah, we'll look next week at potentially seeing it test these resistance points again, or potentially coming down. It's been in a channel. It could easily come down to the 3,000. My preferred trade is probably for it to come down to the 3,000 again and remain within this channel. At least it's giving us, even though it's not giving us clear direction for a big trend, at least it's giving us some good opportunities inside the channel. But at the moment, top of the channel, it's very, very clear. It could meander on down to the middle of the channel throughout the day. So maybe just keep an eye on it. If a good scalping opportunity comes up, maybe take it. But I'd wait for quality on this one. Wouldn't be just jumping in for the hell of it. So definitely wait for quality on this one. So I hope everybody's had a great week's trading. We've had some pretty good opportunities. The range-bound markets have treated us kindly for the scalping opportunities that we've seen. So hopefully everybody's got some of that. And I hope you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next week.